With social media, it's like suddenly every single person has their own television show.
Yep.
Or their own magazine, right? Or their own newspaper. So it's like, what do you want to do with that? Mm-hmm. It could be anything. You've got a blank rectangle, and you can fill that with whatever you can imagine.
Hello, and welcome to the Just Send It podcast by Manychat. We are very excited to have you. Today I'm here with James McCrae. Hi, James.
Hey, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm super excited to chat about your story and your business. James is an artist and a very creative person and a founder. So we're really excited to hear your story.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into it.
Absolutely. In your words, just to kind of get started, can you tell anybody who doesn't know you yet a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so I'm sort of a writer, artist, poet. I think that these days being an artist can be such a multi-dimensional thing. It's not just one thing. Mm-hmm. My background is in writing and poetry. I wrote thousands of poems in my teenage years and in my 20s. I also studied design and visual arts. So I've always been blending different mediums for my creative process. Mm-hmm. And a few years ago, I started writing books and hosting open mics and really helping to spread creativity around the world. I believe that everyone is an artist. And it just helps to have sort of permission and some guidance to return to that inner artist. I think everyone is creative as a child, and we often lose touch with our innate creativity as we get older. Mm-hmm. So my work is really around helping people reclaim their creativity. And these days, social media is such a big place for creative expression. So I've really leaned into Instagram and social media as an expression of my creativity. A lot of people know me for my memes and things like that. I actually teach a class called Meme School.
Yes, and we'll get into that.
Teach people how to make memes. So my core modality as an artist is really writing and poetry. Mm-hmm. And I try to make my social media content really an extension of my poetry. It just takes a different form. It's more visual. It's more short form. But I still think of it as poetry.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. And I love that perspective on social media in between all of the noise. It's like there are people doing very creative things, which is incredible. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I'm an artist too. I was a dancer, so I know that world, at least that side of things. As someone who is an artist and knowing that there are so many artists out there, what was kind of your introduction into posting on social media, and what were you expecting out of it, posting your art?
So my introduction to social media was just sharing my life with my friends. Facebook came out when I was in college, so I was part of that first wave of social media. My introduction was just you're sharing little updates from your day.
Yeah.
I never really thought of it as a place to share art until, MySpace came along, and then there was MySpace blogging, mm-hmm. which was one of the first, I feel like, forms of social media expression. I remember just loving reading my friends' MySpace blogs, and it was just a fun way to keep up with your friends and their thoughts and their ideas. But I never really planned to really be a social media artist, or I didn't really know what that would look like because it's still such a new medium. So it wasn't until I got my first book published. It's called Shit Your Ego Says.
I love that.
And then I thought, I'm going to have to use social media to promote the book. So I had to figure out how to do that. And I didn't know how. I didn't have a following or anything like that. And I actually had a conversation with my editor at my book publisher, and she told me to do whatever made me feel excited or jazzed, mm-hmm. or what came most natural to me. So I thought about what comes most natural to me. In other words, what do I like to do just for the sake of doing it? Because I'm not really natural on camera and doing videos and things like that. And I thought about that, and I've always liked to draw and just doodle. So I started just doing handwritten quotes and draw little figures saying different things, and just this kind of hand-drawn art that had a little message to it. And that was sort of my initial step into being an artist on social media. And it's taken a lot of different twists and turns since then. I've explored a lot of different styles on social media, and it's always changing. I think it's important to stay inspired, and to be inspired, you have to keep exploring and be curious and not just settle for like one thing, but like keep playing around and seeing where your curiosity takes you. And I think that's what artists do.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best way to be an artist on social media, is just to explore and see where your curiosity takes you and try different things and see what sticks.
Yeah. And as someone who has gone from first posting maybe without like a plan or an idea of where it was going to go, into now that you run these businesses that do amazing things and you teach other people and all these things that you do, what kind of mindset shift do you think goes into that, from posting for fun into posting for your business?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is consistency, because social media never turns off, right?
Tell me about it.
And also, just with the way the algorithm is these days, there's no guarantee that people are going to see your content, right? You can post it, and then right when you post things, it shows it to a lot of people, but then it might just sort of stop showing it to people.
Right.
So I think it helps to really have discipline in your creative practice. I think artists in general could benefit from having a really consistent daily practice with their writing or with their content creation, where it becomes almost a ritual, or it becomes part of your daily life where you're sort of always creating, or you're always jotting down ideas. So it's sort of about that consistency of showing up on a regular basis, and also understanding your deeper purpose behind your work and knowing what you stand for and sort of what your audience expects from you, dedicating yourself to that deeper purpose behind what drives you to create, to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
And to stay inspired. I think it helps to really be connected with a sense of purpose.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it kind of brings up this thought in my head that I'm glad that I thought about, because I wanted to ask you this. With being a content creator, there's a lot of this feeling of almost having to play the algorithm game, right? But as an artist, you don't always want to follow the rules of the algorithm or follow trends. Like, you kind of want to pave your own way. What is the balance like there in your perspective?
It's a really interesting question. And I'll sort of answer both sides of it, because on one hand, I think it's a mistake to chase the algorithm or chase trends, because trends come and go. And I think when you're chasing the algorithm, you're sacrificing your own voice and creativity. So I try to stay away from getting too caught up in what's trending or what is popular, or who's going viral, and really focus on distilling my own voice as a writer. But at the same time, it helps to write things in a way that's going to be catchy, that's going to be captivating. You have to think about the mindset people are in when they're scrolling social media, because it's not like you're writing a book and someone's going to sit down with your book and really just like dedicate a lot of time, reading your stuff. People are scrolling kind of mindlessly, and you have to think about what's going to get someone to stop the scroll and pay attention. It helps, I've learned, to write things in a way that sort of has a bit of an edge to it, has a bit of a spice to it. Maybe it's something a little bit unexpected. And I call it actually mic drop messaging, right? Because you think about like a rapper in a freestyle battle, and they might drop some like awesome bar that just has the whole audience like, oh, and you just like drop the mic. So that's sort of how I think about short form social media writing, is saying things in a short, catchy, succinct way that gets people to stop scrolling and pay attention.
Yeah, I love the mic drop moment. I'm going to start using that, because that's incredible. One of the other things that obviously it's very apparent from seeing your content is that you mainly post images. And a lot of people have this mindset that, static images are dead, and it's all about reels, and it's all about short form content that hooks people in 3 seconds. What is your opinion on that, as someone who posts more images than you do videos?
Yeah, I always want to post more videos. It's just not my natural place.
That's fine.
I'm more introverted. So I make myself do reels once in a while, just so my audience knows what I look like and what I sound like. I think that sometimes I feel like I'm running the risk of just people like my words, but they're not really like feeling a connection to me as a person. So I try to put myself out there in video as much as I can, but it's really not that often. The key is finding what you do best. And I know that I don't do reels better than I do writing.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little bit of I think reels and forcing yourself to do videos, it's a little bit overrated. I always think about what is someone going to share? Because honestly, if I think about how you grow an account on social media and how people can see your content if they don't follow you, it's when people share your stuff like in their stories or they repost it.
Yeah.
So I think that if you can write in a way where it's short form and catchy and compelling enough, and it also has a visual aesthetic that is unique and distinct and creative, then people are going to share it in their stories. So I feel like I think people are sick of videos a little bit as well. I mean, I think people want a balance.
Yeah.
Not everyone wants to watch a video all the time. So I think it's good to do whatever comes natural to you and to find the style that's sort of your signature style, whether that's text or videos or, whatever it is.
And every audience is so different.
Yeah.
So it's really just, like you said, finding what works best for you. One other thing that I noticed that you do is that you have multiple Instagram accounts. So instead of putting all of your different avenues on one account, you made a little face there. I'm going to need to know about your feelings. Like, what was your, thought process behind having multiple accounts? And are you happy that you did that?
So, when I coach people, when I coach creators, I strongly recommend to only have one account, because while you're trying to grow an account, it's hard enough to grow one account, let alone grow multiple accounts.
Oh, absolutely.
So I do recommend to my clients to focus on one account and really build up momentum with that one account. So I did that. I really only had one account for a number of years. And once it grew big enough where it was, in the hundreds of thousands of people, then I think it's more safe to diversify, so to speak. But my other accounts are very sort of project specific. So for example, I have an open mic night that I host here in Austin every month called Sunflower Club. And that account is really for the people to come to Sunflower Club, and it's a local account. It's for people in Austin who I want to let them know when the next event's going to be and share videos from the event. So not everyone that follows my main account is going to be relevant to that page because it's local. So that's really just like a Sunflower Club specific page. I also have a page for my Creator Academy business. This is where I teach classes and work with clients to develop their own online brands and voice as an artist and writer. And because that one's more business specific, then that's more like separate. But then I make sure I do collaborator posts between all my accounts. So certain posts can get seen across the board. But for the most part, I do recommend having one account unless you've grown large enough to sort of diversify, or if there's something that's more project specific, where the Sunflower Club page, I don't really care so much about how big that grows. It's really just for the open mic community. So that's why I've got more than one account.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And I honestly share the same, mentality around it as you do, where it is very hard to grow multiple accounts. So if you're not quite there yet with one, then I don't ever recommend starting another one until you get there with the one that you want to grow, the main one. I'm curious, do you do all this by yourself or do you have a team behind you?
Honestly, I do it all by myself.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Because my social media content is my art. Right. So that's something that I would never want to outsource. And even like having chats in my DMs, I think that's a personal thing. I don't want to come across as a brand or a business where I've got automated support or a staff. I like to keep it just simple,
Yeah.
So I do it all by myself.
Wow, that is amazing. So obviously, because you're doing a lot of this solo, I would have to assume that there's some level of tools that at least help you with the content planning portion or something. What does that look like for you? Like, what tools are you using on social media?
Well, mostly I use design software and things like that. A lot of my handwritten stuff, I'll scan it and things like that. But in terms of like marketing support, I use Manychat. Obviously, that's been a big help because I think one thing that social media doesn't do incredibly well, at least on Instagram, is allow you to include links. So, for example, if you're posting something about a class that I'm teaching, it's hard for someone to actually go from that post to like my website to learn more about the class.
Right.
So tools like Manychat really come in handy when it comes to sort of deepening the relationship with the audience. By giving them sort of streamlined ways to explore your work deeper.
Yeah. I'm interested in hearing your perspective on this because obviously being that you're an artist and that you're also a public figure, right? I guess we can say that. How do you balance the automations from Manychat with also being able to communicate by yourself? And like you said, like the communication between you and your audience is so important in the DMs. So what does that balance look like for you?
So for me, I pretty much use Manychat to send people links.
Right.
So they comment on the post and then they automatically get a link sent to them.
Right.
And that's more or less what I use it for. And then any follow-up questions that happen in the DMs, I'll usually just handle those myself, just because every question is so specific. And I want people to feel like I'm a real person. So just sending people links and getting them like access to what I'm selling or offering, that's really comes in handy quite a bit when I'm using social media.
Yeah, I think that's really, really smart. Kind of taking over the follow-up yourself, but using it as the tool to initiate the conversation.
Exactly.
What was the thing that drew you to hopping on Manychat in the first place?
Well, I found out about it about a year ago, and it's like I was on someone's podcast and she shared a clip, and then I saw all these people commenting with the same word.
You're like, what is this?
Yeah, I was so confused. I'm like, why are they commenting this word? And then I looked at what she was doing and, enter this word. And I'm like, this is interesting. I've never heard of this before. So I looked into it and found Manychat, and I'm like, oh, this tool is perfect. This really fills an important gap in the social media marketing process.
Yeah.
So I jumped in and I've been using it on a regular basis ever since.
That is amazing. I want to walk through your business side a little bit. So I know that there are multiple different ways that you monetize, right? You have your book, you have your courses and the way that you teach and classes, you have your events. What has been the most profitable monetization method for you?
Professionally, I sort of consider myself a teacher. So teaching online classes, I've found that to be very beneficial for myself and for my audience. Everyone has something to teach. Like we all pick up skills in our lives that are valuable and that we often take them for granted. So I remember when I launched my first class called Meme School, because I was building an audience based on my memes and people were sharing my memes. And then I decided to launch a course for the first time. And I didn't know how to do that. And I was a little bit nervous that no one would show up, no one would take the class.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of people signed up for it. And I was sort of blown away because I didn't realize that what I had been working on myself for the past year, other people would find that useful. So I think there's so many people out there looking for guidance in different ways. And we all have skills or knowledge that we've learned over our lives, over our, careers, during our creative practice. We sort of pick up these cheat codes that are very valuable. So, I've just wanted to share the cheat codes of myself as a creator and as an artist. And for me, hosting online classes has probably been the biggest business driver for me over the past few years.
Yeah, that is amazing. And there's something that's so special about like not, I guess, gatekeeping the information and being willing to share it with others as well. Like, so that is really huge. I'm a little bit interested in the meme school, and was anybody like doing that at the time when you first launched it? Like, memes are such a very niche thing.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that I launched the first meme class.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I caught a wave with memes. You know, memes are such an interesting thing. The word meme actually means a viral idea. That's sort of the background of memes. And the word was coined by this evolutionary biologist named Richard Dawkins. And he was trying to think of a metaphor for how genes work in biology. So a gene will replicate and spread in a biological system. And memes are the same thing in the world of culture and ideas. So a meme has been described as the smallest unit of an idea.
Wow.
So it's like any idea that goes viral in a culture is sort of a meme. So when I started making memes, you know, there was memes online, but they were mostly anonymous, and people would share memes, but no one was really creating memes for their social media content strategy.
Right.
So I realized there was an opportunity there, you know, a creative opportunity, but also a business opportunity to teach the art and science of memetics and how memes work and how you can make your own. And now I've seen memes are more and more, memes are everywhere now.
Yeah.
So they're a little less like unique as when I got started, but I just feel like it's such a good, I think memes are sort of the first art form that's native to social media.
Yeah. Wow.
It's
That's
sort
such
of
an
like a
interesting perspective.
social media specific art form.
Yeah.
Because there's something about the humor in a meme and just like the visual mixed with the text, it just kind of creates something that's very shareable.
Yeah.
So when I started making memes, that's when people would share my content more and more. And that's really how I got here today.
Oh my gosh. Well, definitely memes are some of the most share-worthy content, and we both know that shares are one of the best forms of engagement that you can get.
Yeah.
I also love, what is it, memetics?
Memetics.
Memetics. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Sort of the science of viral ideas.
That is so cool. And that was one of the things that I noticed that you focus on within your meme school is more of like the psychology behind a meme. Because I think we just think like, oh, it's just like a funny picture slapped with some funny words. And that's like not necessarily always how it goes.
Correct. Yeah. Like, so, okay. So one way to think about memes would be like a slogan. So I think about like the 1960s, for example, and there was the hippie revolution of the 60s. I feel like that was a movement of memes, a revolution of memes. And what I mean by that is people were like protesting the Vietnam War, and you could see a sign maybe that said, "Make love, not war." That's a meme because it's a whole philosophy about not going to war and, you know, focusing on love instead. But when you can distill that philosophy down to 4 words, make love, not war, then it can go on a bumper sticker, it can go on a t-shirt, it can go on a sign, and it sort of spreads and it goes viral in a culture. So it's really about having a good idea, but being able to distill that idea down to its essence and sort of turning it into a slogan or a catchphrase that's easy to remember and share.
That is really, really interesting. I'm excited to dig more into like the art of your memes and everything, because it's so interesting to see, and I've never really considered it that deeply before. But I love it. One other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is your book. So obviously you have written multiple books, which is incredible. As someone who's not really a writer, I admire you for that. What inspired you to write an entire book? What was the thought behind that?
You know, I've always wanted to write books, and I started a lot of books in my life, and they never went anywhere. So when I wrote my first book, I mean, it was actually a crazy story. I became homeless on this island in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy in New York City. So the Hurricane Sandy destroyed my apartment, and I didn't have anywhere to go, and me and my friend took a one-way trip to this little island in the Caribbean called Culebra. And I sort of proceeded to have a nervous breakdown on this island because I was like homeless and I was unemployed and I was broke. And while I was on that island going through this like nervous breakdown, I had all this chatter from my ego that was telling me that I was a failure and that I had all these fears and insecurities. And I had this aha moment where I realized this is all just my ego talking. And I sort of instantaneously had this book idea called Shit Your Ego Says. And I just knew that it was going to be the first book that I actually finished.
Yeah.
Because it just came through as like a very clear download. And I didn't know how I would get it published or how I would get it out there, but I committed to writing it. And one thing led to another, and it found its way out into the world.
That's amazing. Can you tell me a little bit about your newest book, which is The Art of You? I guess what inspired you to write that after writing your first book and everything that you've gone through? Can you tell me a little bit about that book?
Yeah, so The Art of You is sort of a guidebook to the creative process and unlocking the keys to creativity. Because I think whether you're a musician or a writer or a painter, the creative process sort of follows similar stages. So as someone who's been an artist my whole life in various forms, I've spent a lot of time thinking about the creative process, and I really wanted to break down the steps of creativity. So I started just sketching out the steps of creativity, and I came up with this figure that I call the yin and the yang of creativity. And the yin and the yang are sort of these equal but opposite forces in the universe that really permeate all things. You could say that yin is the feminine nature of the universe, yang is the masculine nature of the universe, and yin is about cultivating intuition and sort of being receptive to things and to ideas, whereas the yang is about action and sort of initiating force and doing things and making things. All creativity starts with yin. Yin is sort of the fertile soil where you can't really see anything happening, but a lot is growing beneath the surface.
Yeah.
Or you could compare it to the womb. It's sort of this dark place where new life grows. And that is our subconscious thoughts and our emotions. So it starts just by tuning into our own subconscious, our emotions, and accessing deeper inspiration. So we can get these moments of insight that we can then act on, and then the yang becomes making the thing. So that's like finding your voice and your style and having a consistent practice to bring it to life so you can eventually launch it and bring it into the world. So the book really focuses on going through the yin and the yang stages of the creative process. So no matter what art form that you work in, it sort of shares the cheat codes for awakening your inner artist and bringing your work into the world in whatever form it takes.
This is really interesting. Is this kind of the same mentality that you use when you teach creators in your academy? And I also am curious with your academy in particular, what is like the thing that you feel creators are often struggling with the most?
So yes, that is definitely what I teach. And it always starts with yin. So in other words, a lot of creators, they want instant gratification. They want to post something today and have it go viral.
Absolutely.
And people even ask me, like, how long did it take to grow your following? And I think about that and I'm like, well, it took me my whole life, because I think about the hundreds of poems that I wrote as a teenager that nobody ever read. And I couldn't do what I'm doing now without having written those hundreds of poems that nobody ever saw. When it comes to creating content, I think it really does start with finding your own voice and purpose. So in my classes, I'll go through different guided meditations, for example, to help people connect with their intuition or their emotions. Like, I think the best creativity comes from a very deep place, whether that's an emotion you're feeling or something in your subconscious. So you can't just always be making, doing. You've got to slow down. I highly recommend meditation for any artist because it's about cultivating that stillness where ideas come from?
Yeah.
Right? If you're always making things and always doing things, you're sort of running on the ego mind. And for me, that's like fishing for ideas in a very shallow pond. But when you learn meditation, when you learn to slow down, feel your feelings, tap into your emotions, spend time in quiet contemplation, you're sort of accessing a more rich and deep field to tap into. So then it's like fishing for ideas in a vast ocean rather than a shallow pond. So before making things, I think it's so important just to slow down and really go within and cultivate that inner world, just like cultivating the soil to allow better ideas to grow.
Yeah. I love the fact that you basically approach business and social media like such an artist.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is incredible because I think most of us just think very surface level. Like you said, you post the thing and it goes viral and you just hope for the best or whatever. But I can tell that there's a lot more thought that goes into it for you. I'm curious as well, like, how do you feel that, I guess, on a reflection on yourself, like, how do you feel that you're doing when it comes to balancing the art that you're making for business purposes and the art that you're making for yourself?
Yeah.
I think that's a big struggle, I would have to imagine.
It is. That's a good question. My philosophy is no one goes onto social media to see ads. Right?
That is true. I don't.
No one does. Literally no one goes on social media to see what are people selling today.
Right.
Right? So I think a lot of entrepreneurs, there's even advice about always be selling.
Right.
And every post has to sell something. But then you're sort of annoying your audience, to be honest, because they want to be inspired. They want to have a moment of laughter or feeling or reflection. So I try to put out as much sort of content that's not selling, but that is just really expressing my own ideas and thoughts and feelings and reflections and commentary, because that's what's going to get people interested in what I'm saying. And then I'm like top of mind. I'm like at the top of their feed because I'm sharing things that have value unto themselves without trying to sell something else. So that's going to help with even metrics like likes and shares and followers. And then once people are paying attention and you sort of have this trust with your audience, where they don't see you as just trying to sell them something. They see you as a genuine person and an artist, and they're interested in what you have to say. Then when you are selling something, they're going to be more interested in buying it. So it's definitely a balance. And even when I do things for business, which are selling, for example, if I'm marketing a meme school, I could do a carousel post that talks about the program itself and sort of sells the program. But what's going to be more effective is if I share a bunch of my memes. So they're actually seeing a demonstration of the art as opposed to marketing copy.
Right.
So I try to let the art do the selling for me and get people interested in what I'm saying and what I'm sharing, and then, sort of draw them in on a personal level, so then they're more interested in buying what I'm selling.
I love this. It's using your own work as the promotional material.
Exactly. Exactly.
One of the things that's obviously huge in conversation between both artists, business owners, social media creators, literally everyone, is AI.
Yes.
I'm curious your thoughts on it, if it scares you, if you're excited about it.
It definitely scares me. I mean, I think AI should scare everyone.
Yeah, just a little.
Just a little.
Just a little.
Not that it's bad, it's just very disruptive. And we're only at the beginning stages of seeing how it's going to roll out, and it's going to completely transform every industry, including content creation.
Yep.
I don't use it a lot because I haven't found that use case for me quite yet. I use it as a research tool. I've started to use it as almost a brainstorm partner.
Right.
In the writing process. I'll share a poem with ChatGPT and then just ask for its feedback, or are there any areas that could be improved? And it always gives suggestions, and I very seldomly follow the suggestions because we have to be careful with the feedback it gives us because it's sort of like this generic feedback, and a lot of what it's giving feedback on sort of takes out some of the spirit that I'm trying to transmit through the work. So I wouldn't say that I'm using it much for the creative process other than as a brainstorm partner and as a research tool. Or it's great for like, oh, what are some different ways of saying this? What are some alternative ways of saying this if I think a certain word isn't right? So I play around with it. I definitely know that some people are using it to write their content. Using it to write like captions or marketing copy, I think is totally fine. I wouldn't want to use it for my creative writing other than as a brainstorm partner, because I do think that it's going to suck some of the raw humanity out of it, which I think is what really makes art amazing, is this raw humanity. But we're all sort of navigating, how to use it, because it's only just starting, and it's like, I think there's a feeling that if you don't start using AI, you're going to get left behind.
I'm definitely interested to see what's going to happen in the world of content creation, because I share a very similar like mindset to you, where I like to use it as a partner, but like, I make all these YouTube videos on this channel, and it's like, if I had it script out my entire video, I would sound like anyone else who knows how to put a prompt into a computer.
Exactly.
And there's something so special about, I guess, adding your bit of art into things and not just sounding like everyone else, sounding like a human being. You know?
Yeah, there's something about imperfection in art that I think is very important.
Yes.
If something's too polished, it just feels robotic a little bit. Like if you look at art and you can, it's really in a painting, it's the brush strokes that make it so unique and individualized. And the same with writing. It's like, why did a certain word come into my head? Even if something could be more grammatically correct, that imperfect human nature is what people are really going to connect with when it comes to art.
Mm-hmm. As we start to kind of wind down the podcast interview, which, by the way, thank you for being on. It's been amazing to hear your perspective as the artist here. How do you envision the future of being a content creator?
Yeah, well, we're just at the beginning. Again, social media is still so new. On one hand, social media is it can be very annoying because it's so addictive and it's so distracting. But at the same time, it's the most powerful tool that creatives have ever had to share their work. You can share one thing and then have people all around the world see it overnight, which is such a huge power that these tools give us. So I think that we're going to find more and more artists using social media. And I don't mean like, oh, I'm a painter, so I'm going to share my paintings on social media, or I'm a author, so I'm going to share snippets from my book in social media, right? That's like taking art from one medium and then sharing it onto another.
Right.
What I'm interested in is, what does art that's made for social media look like, such as memes, short form video. And I think there's going to be more and more interesting ways to use social media that we haven't even thought of yet. More and more artists are just going to go straight to these platforms. I think I saw a stat that's like, more of Gen Z want to be content creators or influencers than any other profession.
Yes, that is a true stat. I have also seen this stat.
So every generation has so many amazing artists that come along with it, right? And so many different art genres are born with each generation. So I'm really curious to see how subsequent generations will grow up with these tools and learn how to use them as artists.
Yeah.
And the definition of art is going to change.
Absolutely. I think it's already changing.
Yeah.
I mean, even with AI, we're seeing AI artists, and that's something that didn't exist before.
Right.
I also love what you brought up about artists using social media maybe in a different way than just showing their art. Yeah. It reminds me of a story of, I could be getting the details of this incorrect, but there's one girl who I'm pretty sure she started a TikTok account because she wanted to show her singing, but then she decided to create content. I believe it's like content with a puppet, and she like started to just do all this content, and now she's known for that and not necessarily for her singing, but it does kind of transition into both,
Yeah.
and she's able to promote it because she's able to build this platform. I think artists are just so talented in general that even if it's not about your art, there are so many things that you can do to build a platform that then funnels into your work.
Yeah, with social media, it's like suddenly every single person has their own television show
Yep.
or their own magazine, right? Or their own newspaper. So it's like, what do you want to do with that? It could be anything. You've got a blank rectangle, and you can fill that with whatever you can imagine, whether it's memes or videos or sketch comedy, or there's so many things you can do. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what sort of art people can create for social media. Not just marketing, not just content in the sense that we think of it, but true creative expression that is born from the internet and for the internet. For me, that's an exciting question.
Yeah, I'm very excited too. And since you're a creator yourself and you work with tons of creators, what is a piece of advice that you would give to maybe someone who's an artist who wants to start content creation?
Honestly, I would say to be a student of the world, and in particular, a student of art. So, I think that everything we do, we absorb, and it becomes data that we can transmute into expression. So, go to art galleries, read famous novels, find a list of the greatest albums ever and listen to them all. Really become a sponge for artistic inspiration across the board. Watch the greatest movies, right? Study the great artists before, even if it's not on social media, because you're going to learn tips and techniques and ways of doing things that's going to inspire your work.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's great advice. And I appreciate you for being on the podcast. Can you just share where we can find you on socials?
Yeah, my Instagram is Words Are Vibrations, and the link in my bio is going to have all my classes and ways that you can go deeper in all my books. So thanks for having me here, Sarah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And tune in for the next episode with someone else who's awesome and amazing, just like you. Yay! Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then I do have my phone here just to check the time. Cool. Because as you can see, we don't have a clock here.
Yep.
So
Understandable.
we should get a clock here. Alas. Anyways,